You're live. Very good then. Welcome to the special rendition of Monday Night Moshiach Matters. A lot going on. It is, first of all, Rosh Chodesh Kislev, so Chodesh Tov, big day in the Chabad calendar. It's the day the Rebbe came back to 770 after his heart attack. And it was a great and tremendous, joyous celebration in 770. And so, a lot of exciting stuff going on. And of course, the month of Kislev is one of the months that are referred to as a Chodesh HaGeula, the month of the redemption. Thomas also is the month of redemption. But so God willing, this will be the month of the Geula Shlema, where Hashem will finally put an end to this long galus, redeem us, avenge our blood, and Moshiach will reveal himself right now. Let's get jamming. A lot of ground to cover. A very interesting sikha tonight. This is Parshas Toldos. And let's get started. Aleph. Yadua. Shabakal Rosh Chodesh. Yesh Inyan Klali. Hamashatef. The Kachadosh. That is, it's known that in the Rosh Chodesh there is a general a matter for the entire month. In Prati, so the concept of Rosh Chodesh in and of itself is a general concept. It's referred to as a mini Rosh Hashanah, actually. And that's in general. And then every single month has its own specific relevance to the Rosh Chodesh of the month. And that is for that month in particular. Excuse me. Okay. And this is specifically applies to the month of Kislev. Hein be'inin klali the Rosh Chodesh, ve'hein be'inin prati Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Shabo mudkash shoyser gam klalos in the Rosh Chodesh kadakam. Va'o ibuhui hakash v'hashaytos kahan al nakutas lahanukura ha'ikris. Shebechad kol echad meches rabba kol Yisrael b'meshach kol hadoros. And the Rebbe says, and as a continuation is what we have been emphasizing recently, and we spoke about Shalom Aleichem Shalom, and we spoke about more specifically at length in last week's Sikha, Chai Sarah, which is, for those of you who joined in, a very, very, very powerful Sikha, one of the most powerful, I think, ever given as to date. Anyways, the Rebbe said the most recent emphasis on the mission of our generation is that all the days of your life, especially now is where we're holding in the footsteps of the redemption, exist only to bring the days of Mashiach. It's think about how many people long for a purpose or a mission in life, something meaningful to do. And the Rebbe has clearly gave us clear directives of what we need to do. Entire days of our life are here to bring the days of Mashiach. That is the main focal point of our work in this world. But Gasha Yisrael Bedorenu Zev Hektevasos Zev Nafesemo Zev Zo, excuse me. And the Rebbe said, and this applies especially, even more in our generation, in this particular period of time in which we find ourselves. And especially, as we've mentioned many times, in this most recent times of we are now. Base. Inyan Klali Shal Rosh Chodesh Murgash Bishmo Rosh Chodesh. And this matter of Rosh Chodesh, first of all, is emphasized in the name of Rosh Chodesh. Chodesh. Lashon Chidush. The Hebrew word for month, and Chidush, which means a renewal or something unique, are very close in their roots, letters. Al Shem HaChidush the Lemolad Levana. And it's referring to the unique renewal of the moon that takes place in every single month. That the moon goes through, as we know, periods of waxing and waning. And it waxes from the beginning of the month until we get to the Aleichem Shalom, to the middle of the month. And then it begins to wane from the middle of the month all the way down to the end of the month. And then the beginning of the month, once again, it renews again. At the end of the month, it's completely concealed. On Erev Rosh Chodesh, where we are right now, you don't see the moon. It's in a complete state of concealment because it's getting ready for its rebirth, if you will. In such a way that it gives birth. It's called the birth or the renewal of the moon. It's referring to a pasuk where it basically says, and your place will be missing, your place will be empty, and this will cause a remembrance. Referring to King David when he was missing from the normal sitting of the table where he was at, and it caused a remembrance of someone. It's wait a minute, the seat is empty. Someone is supposed to be sitting in it. And this is also hinted to the fact of the rebirth of the moon, that the moon is empty or missing. And therefore, we miss the moon because we don't see it, and we want to see the moon again. And then when it gives birth on Rosh Chodesh, it's a little sliver. You can barely see it at all. And then it begins the process of its waxing, slowly, getting bigger and bigger as it continues on through its cycle into the halfway point of the month. There's a fascinating sikha, by the way, they all are, but pay close attention. There's a lot of deep connections to our Avodas Hashem that we could take out of these learnings here tonight. And this is why. Oh no, I'm sorry, I skipped something. Oh no, that's not. We're good. And therefore, it's called in the name of Rosh Chodesh, or the head of the month, as an example of the head in general, which guides the whole existence of the mensch, of the person. The Indian Avodah, in other words, the beginning of the month guides the entire upcoming month. And further, we know that the service of the Jewish people is likened to the moon. And it says of the Jewish people, in the future to come, you will be renewed like the moon. And the unique thing is it's because it's contingent upon the work of the Jewish people. That's the entire idea of what we're doing in this exile. It's our work that is bringing the redemption. And there's something unique or renewed as it's connecting to the Jewish people themselves. And the idea of diminishing, if you will, or shrinking, is only to increase and go to a higher level than where you were before. And it's known, this is connected to our avoda in general. Often God puts us through a tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is what God did when he created the world. He had to remove his energy from the world, otherwise it wouldn't exist. I wouldn't be able to sustain the intense godly energy. So God removed himself from the world, if you will. He hid himself and enabled an empty place called a makam panoi, an empty place. And then he brought the kav, the line, the measuring line of God's energy back into the world. So what does that mean? That means that basically in our lives, when we feel that God is often not around or get this feeling like chas v'shalom, he's not involved in our life, he's not interested in our life, he's not present in our life, we don't feel him, it feels like things are dark, if you will. This is what we call a tzimtzum. This is a period of God bringing us low. So afterwards, he can bring us high. And this will be revealed in its fullest extent in the true and complete redemption through a Mashiach. In fact, the reason given that why the exile of the exile of Egypt, which is the first exile, which is according to most Mefarshim is not counted amongst the four main exiles of the Jewish people. But nevertheless, it was 410 years supposed to be, with a lot of being significantly shorter. But still, it was 200 and some odd years. And we had to go through a lot of painful times before we got redeemed. Now, the exile of Edom, which we're in now, which is Rome, which, by the way, according to most Mefarshim, Edom, there's different opinions, but Edom, which is Rome, which is basically the left, or what is known as the Catholic religion, which ultimately went from Rome to Europe to America. America is now considered Edom. There's different opinions that Yishmael, or which is the right, or the right side of the religious belief system, which is the Arab nations or the Muslims, if you will, that last exile, Edom and Yishmael, are combined together. Some say that it's Netzach and Hod, that the right side is Yishmael, the left side is Edom. But the point being that we've been in this exile since the destruction of the Second Temple. It's been thousands of years. It's by far the longest of all the exiles. Reason being is that the revelation of good, of Mashiach, of that light, of that energy is going to be so unbelievably powerful and high, and we're going to be exalted to such high levels, which is why we're in such a state of descent, right now. And to the sensitive person, you realize that what's going on in the world right now, what appears to be death and destruction, is actually the contrary. Anytime you see giant uprising and the world tremoring, whether that's from natural disasters, there's no such thing because God creates nature, whether that's earthquakes, hurricanes, wars, all of these things, it's a direct result of a tremendous amount of good and godly energy being pulsated into the world. And unfortunately, if we're not in tune with what's going on beneath the surfaces, we see darkness. But for those who are in tune, you see light. And you realize that all this darkness is just a feeble attempt to try to cover over the tremendous amount of good and blessings that are in the world right now, which is where we need to focus our energy. And I don't want to go too far off topic, but just to remind you that the biggest war that's being fought right now is not in Eretz Israel and Gaza against Palestine. That's all hara'ah. That's all reflections. That's all shadows. The biggest war that's being fought right now is inside of ourselves. It's a psychological war. They're trying to get us to be down and depressed and focus on how weak we are and how we're victims and look what they did to us and this poor, embarrassing, I don't even call it a government of Israel that just keeps apologizing to the world. We have a right to defend ourselves. Why do you have to someone's trying to murder you, or they're murdering and raping you, and you're fighting back, and you have to remind them that you have a right to do that. We have a right to exist. We're allowed to have our own country. Do you see America talking like that? No. So the point is that this Amalek, this Hamas is inside of us. This self-hatred, this doubt, this fear of being proud of who we are. And if we manifest that true joy and pride of who we are, the negative energy outside will just disappear. So make no doubt about it, this is a psychological war. It's a war of our minds and our hearts. And that's why it's so important to learn Torah, to fill our minds and hearts with godly energy. because ultimately that's how we're going to win the war from God, not because we have a more powerful army or because we're political maneuverings or whatever nonsense is happening. And I'm not saying we don't need a powerful army, we do, but the war is won through our connection to Hashem. And furthermore, there is to say that on Rosh Chodesh it reveals in every single Yid the spark of Mashiach that is within inside of us. This is the level of the Yechida. And this is a spark of the general Yechida, which is the soul of Mashiach. Yechida is the highest level of our soul, and Mashiach is the general soul of all of our souls. חידוש בכל מציאויסי ובכל עניינוי שנעשים חדורים ובבחינת היחידה ועיקר שעל ידי נעשה הסגלוס וביוסף משיח תיקנו אך פשוטו ממש נשמה בגוף מלך בבית דם וכו'. And it's known that Mashiach is the general soul of all the Jewish people, is contained within his soul. And then it will be revealed the existence, the true existence of this level in the days of Mashiach, in the most simplest sense, because Mashiach is a man, soul and body, a king from the house of David. Gimel. And now we're going to talk about specifically the unique thing of the month of Kislev and Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Shemo shel Chodesh. First of all, the name of the month, Kislev. Shebeklal beis hitavot Kislev. Kislev is two Hebrew words put together. Kis, which is Chaf Samek, and Lev, Lamed Vav. Kis mora al helam v'kisui. Kis is a shortened version, if you will, of the word of kisui, which literally means to be concealed or hidden. Kisa alavana, that the moon is hidden. Mishkad ve'avecha, and then that your seat is empty, it's missing, so to speak. The Lev, Lamed Vav, is the number 36. And it's also the same gematria for Eila, which means to reveal or to show something. Mora al higiloi de molad, the Banat, which is referring to the renewal or the showing of the moon. Because afterwards it reaches a full state of revelation. And this Lamed Vav is referring to Vav times 5 or 6 times 6, referring to the revelation of all 6 of our emotional attributes and every 6 inside one of those. 6 times 6. Referring to revealing all of our emotional attributes outwards. So what does it mean? It means Kislev is literally in its name in and of itself reflecting these two diametrically opposite events or types of consciousness, if you will, which is revealed and concealed. Chis referring to reveal and Lev referring to, Chis referring to concealed and Lev referring to reveal. So it's referring to the fact that the month, like every month, in the beginning the moon is concealed and then it's revealed. But that is particular to the month of Kislev, as we were going to talk about more now. And that's why we see in the month of Kislev, it is manifesting these energies of concealing and revealing much higher than other months of Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh stabu va'ofen the kisei. Shopelu shoyisho b'kisei. V'loshen kis aleph. Sha'aleph moran rak up is tchilas hagilut. And all other months, we're referring to the kis A, which is literally the kis with an aleph, which is talking about the idea of the beginning of something that's being revealed. But that's not the case with Kislev, which is Kis Lamed Vav, which is emphasis of full revelation, right? Like we learned a minute ago. It's a little technical, the sikha, so you got to pay attention, but it's well worth it. Which we learned a minute ago is 6 times 6 is 36, is a full state of revealing of the emotional attributes. So more so than any other month, the month of Kislev balances out or manifests these two energies of concealing and revealing simultaneously. And with that, move on, and from this we can understand. And therefore, the Rebbe says that Rosh Chodesh Kislev is emphasis of the redemption more so than all the other Rosh Chodeshes of the year. And again, as we pointed out at the beginning of the Sikha, that Rosh Chodesh is a very auspicious time for Hasidim in general, because it's the day that the Rebbe came back to 770 after being on an extended hiatus due to his heart attack, which brought about great joy because the Hasidim had no idea when he was coming back. And that's the whole idea. It's the same idea that he was concealed, and then he came back and revealed himself, which of course is playing out on a much broader scale post Gimel Tammuz of the concealments, and we're waiting once again for the final revealment, and Mashiach's taking us out of Golus now. And oh, sorry, it's just something that's popped in my brain that I totally forgot to do that I have to do right now. Well, I'm going to forget. You'll have to forgive me for 30 seconds. Okay. And the month of Kislev is filled with days that are connected to redemption as well. Yom Tov Chusmai. Yud Tes Kis. I'm sorry. Yom Tov Chusmai. Yom Tov Hanukkah. We have Hanukkah, which is of course a festival of redemption. Al Shem Hanukkah Hamizbeach Hamikdash Bizman Beit Sheni. Shitchadnacha Mechadish. The Chidush Ikar Bahanukkah B'Yemei Tamech Shishi. Because the mitzvah Shlem Madi Mashik Tzikenu. And we'll have the ultimate Hanukkah Sabayis, the welcoming opening of the third Beis Hamikdash. Kumeruma Gam Bechidush B'Mispar Shmona. Himehanukkah Legabi Shavi Min the Pesach Sukkot. We see the unique thing of Hanukkah, that it is 8 days compared to Pesach and Sukkot, which are both 7 days each. The Mispar Shmonas Nires Hanukkah Neros Hanukkah Legabi Shiva'as Haneros B'Menor B'Meitazina She'ehan Hanes the Shel. The Kedua Shemispar Shmona Kasher V'Sharach L'Mos HaMashiach. And it's known that the menorah in the base of English had 7 branches. And the menorah of the Hanukkah is 8 branches. And 8, of course, is referring to a number above the nature, which is connected to the true and complete redemption. And it's connected to Mashiach. And days that took place after Hanukkah. We also have very important days of connected to redemption, connected to Chassidus. The Chag HaGeula Shel Admor Hazakin, the day of redemption of the Alter Rebbe, which is Yud Tes Kislev, which is called the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus. Hag HaGeula Shel Admor HaEmsoi, Yud Kislev. We have the Hag of Gula, the day of the redemption, where the Mittler Rebbe was released from prison. That's on Tes Kislev. I'm sorry, it's on Yud Kislev. His birthday is on Tes Kislev. The Chag of Redemption of the Mittler Rebbe was Yud Kislev. Panimis Torah. Bechinas Hashem and Shabbat Torah. We know that the innermost part of the Torah, the Chassidus, is the oil of the Torah. And therefore, when we have the days that both the second and first Rebbe were released from prison in the month of Kislev, it's indicative of redemption holidays because their essence and being is connected to Chassidus, which is the oil of the Torah, which is also called, the Rebbe says, the Yechida of the Torah, or the 5th level of the Torah. Asi mar da malchal mashicha alav namar mitzasi david abdi b'shem kadshe mishchais. And therefore, we see that the of course the Baal Shem Tov met Mashiach in the heavenly realms, and that's when you are going to come. He said when your well springs are spread out. And furthermore, it's referring to where the Rebbe says now, and he's quoting, "I've found my servant David, and I have anointed him with oil." There's a few times in these sichos of Nun Aleph Nun Beis where the Rebbe openly says this pasuk. That I have already found my servant David. In other words, that the Rebbe is telling us in our generation that God has already anointed, he has already found the Mashiach of the generation. He's already anointed him, he's already chosen him. This is not an election, it's someone chosen by God. And all we're waiting for is his acceptance by the people. Remember, David HaMelech spent 7 years in Hebron before he was actually able to rule over all of Israel and go to Yerushalayim because he wasn't accepted by the people yet. The Haisef Shekava and his Kava Pasha Betofesis Yisrael. And for all of these reasons, it's known that the month of Kislev is called a month of redemption, Chodesh HaGeula. As far as I know, there's only 2 months that the Rebbe refers to of months of Geula. And if someone has different information, please feel free to correct me. The one is the month of Kislev, and the other is the month of Tammuz. Both of those months he openly referred to as Chodesh HaGeula, months of redemption. Aham Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and it begins with Rosh Chodesh Kislev right now. It's raining again. Rosh Chodesh Shel Geula, the Rosh Chodesh of redemption. Noisef HaShaychis HaKlalis the Geula Lechidus Levana Bakal Rosh Chodesh. And as we said, this Rosh Chodesh is connected to redemption even more so than the other Rosh Chodeshes or the other months of the year. And it's also hinted to the fact where it says that in the future to come, the Jewish people will be renewed like the moon. And this will take place in the days of Melech HaMashiach. Okay, let's keep trucking ahead. And again, a lot of gems, diamonds are right in front of us, getting ready to be revealed. Dalit. V'yesh lahoisev v'yois hashaychus v'yor hashaychus the god hashal Yisrael chidus levana k'lechora eno muvan. So now the Rebbe has a question. He says the fact that it says that in the future to come in Yemot HaMashiach that the Jewish people will be renewed like the moon. The Rebbe has a question on this pasuk that seemingly he says that this is something that we don't understand. Why? That our sages teach us that the Jewish people reached their completion, the height of their perfection as a nation, during the days of the kingship of David and Shlomo. And over there, it says that we were like a full and complete moon, right? Because the Jewish people are referred to as the moon, or the sphere of Malchus, where God is referred to as the sun, or Zah, the sphere of Zah. Basically just meaning God is the giver of the light like the sun, and the Jewish people are the receiver of the light like the moon. And we take the light of the sun, of God, and we reflect it and pass it forth to the nations of the world and the rest of the world. Which, I don't want to get into that. It's a whole different forbidden. But the idea is that we refer to as a completion in the days of David and Shlomo, where we refer to as a completion of the moon, the shlemut of the moon. Levana b'rosh shoyin shal Nisan, b'techilas lahir, rakal shehi holeches, me'ira ad tesvav yemei v'diskus, shalot mitmala. Kach yisrael tesvav dor min Avraham ad Shloimei. Avraham techil lahir, kivan shebo Shloimei nismala the diskus shal Levana. שנאמר, ויושב שלוימה עד כיסא של המלך, Very interesting. So we know that the moon starts over in the beginning of the month. That's when we barely see it, and then it starts to shine. And it reaches its state of completion when? In the 15th of the month, directly halfway through the month. And furthermore, from counting from Abraham, who as the first Jew, that was the first generation, if you count to the days of Shlomo HaMelech, it's 15 generations. 15 is the number when we get to the middle of the month when the moon is full. And that's why, that's not why, but it by Hashkacha Pratis, it coincides to the time where the Jewish people were at peace. The world was at complete peace. The Jewish people were held in the highest esteem and respect. Leaders from all over the world brought gifts to Shlomo HaMelech. And it says that Shlomo HaMelech sat on the chair of God, and we were at a state of fulfillment, of completion. And since we know that the true and complete redemption from a righteous Mashiach, who is from the seed of David, and from the house of David and the seed of Shlomo, from the tribe of Yehuda, then of course the Jewish people will reach their ultimate completion, right? In Yemot HaMashiach, we're going to be at the highest possible the way there is. No more galus afterwards. We're going to be full throttle, full capacity. And when do we reach the state of completion of the moon? In the 15th of the month. Not at the beginning of the month of Rosh Chodesh, when the moon is reborn. Because in the beginning of the month, as we are now, it's a nekuda, it's a dot. You can barely see it. And it's not compared at all to the completion of the moon as it takes place in the middle of the month. When the disc, the shape of the moon is full. And how much more so that it says in the future to come that God will restore the moon to its full size. And the light of the moon will be just like the light of the sun, without any being diminished. So the Rebbe is asking, let me continue on, see if it says it, and then I'll explain it outside. And this question is, so what is the question? What is the issue the Rebbe has with this? It's that it says the Jewish people, when Mashiach comes, will be renewed like the moon. But it also says we will reach our state of completion. We reached our completion in the days of Shlomo HaMelech, when the chair of God was complete. 15 generations from Abraham to Shlomo. Just like in the 15th of the month, when the moon is at its state of fullness. So the question the Rebbe has is, why does the pasuk not say that when Mashiach comes, the Jewish people will be filled and complete like the moon, like in the days of Shlomo? When the moon, we know when Mashiach comes, the moon is going to be at its full state, just like it was prior to being shrunk down. When the moon was complaining why there are two rulers of the same size, so God shrunk the moon. But that's not what the pasuk says. It says we will be renewed like the moon when Mashiach comes. But when the moon is renewed, you don't see it. It's a tiny little dot. So how are the Jewish people going to reach their state of completion of shleimut when it's the beginning of the month? If it's a new birth where you don't even see it, something doesn't add up with the pasuk. And this applies even more so to the month of Kislev, called Lamed Vav Morah Al Shleimas Egilui, because it's referring to the completion of a complete state of revelation. Shenase before she tamala the discourse Levana, although regala achre hahelam Kislev regala. all cards are lahab. שבדיין שהגאולה מצווה שלהם על ידי משדם מלך המשיח ומולד חירס לבנה. מודגשת מעל ישראל שיש במולד החידוש של לגבי מילוי גם לגבי אלמוי שלמוס. ובגאולה עשידה לבוא על ידי דבר מלך המשיח יסגל לעצם בני ישראל מעל הזו שהם עשידים לחדש כמו ישראל כלם. So now we have to figure out what's going on. If we're going to be renewed like the moon, then it doesn't sound like we're going to complete. On the contrary, it sounds like we're going to be lacking. And to be full like the moon, why does it say we're going to be like the moon when it's renewed, when it's not full? Hey, Vivan behekdamir v'ramamala saleda v'chidr Yisrael amala the tinuk agami mamdu matzav la'achre shenasa gedol. And now the Rebbe is going to talk about the advantage of a child versus an adult. By the way, this is another concept that the Rebbe emphasizes on at least as off the top of my head, 3 occasions I can think of, I'm sure more, in these latter seekers of Nun Oflan Beis. That even the greatest of the Jewish people would daven to Hashem that they should be able to know Him and pray to Him like a child. Just pause for a moment and think about. Do you think a child is? I know my children are not worried if they're going to have food, if they're going to have clothes, if they're going to get a hug at night, if someone's going to read them a story, if their parents are going to pick them up from school. They don't worry about those things. They know that we're there, like a clock. We're there to take care of them. They don't think about it. They think about the things they want, the prizes and the things like that they want, but their needs, they don't ever question whether their needs are going to be met. Not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. I mean, we're doing our best, but I think if you ask them, they would tell you that they feel very confident that we are delivering through a lot of hard work those needs. And it's not a thought. Now imagine if we had that same confidence in God, that we never worry about our bills, we never worry about what's going to be and how am I going to pay for this and what's going to happen if this and then what about this and what about, we live in a constant state of fear and worry for no reason. Because if we can be like a child, we will realize that God is taking care of us all the time. And this is true Amunah Pshuta, very simple faith that we have, that God is taking care of every single one of us and holding us like a little child and making sure our needs are met on a daily basis. And we shouldn't have to worry about it at all. And on top of it, have you ever seen a child walk into a new place for the first time or meet new people or, see a smile for this time? Like, imagine if we entered every single day of our lives in awe, in wonder, in amazement, this beautiful world God's created around us. Wow, there's birds chirping, there's trees growing, and it's a beautiful sky, and there's stars, and there's a sun, and there's clouds, and wow, I can say a bracha, I can say a blessing over a drink, and all this, the beauty of the world around us that we just take for granted. Instead, we walk around with a chip on our shoulder, like, I wish I had a nicer car. I wish I had a nicer house. I wish I had a nicer watch. I wish I had more clothes. I wish my wife wasn't such a pain in the ass. I wish this. And all we do is walk around in these inner grumblings of how angry and upset we are and how miserable we are because we didn't get what we wanted. But we got what we need. Because you can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. Sorry, singing is not my strong point. But we need to be like children. We need to be like children. We need to be confident. And unfortunately, most of our childhoods got hijacked by becoming parents to our own parents at too young of an age. Whatever, that's a whole different discussion. The point is that if we can be childlike, not childish, but childlike in our approach to life, we'd all be a lot better off. So it says even the greatest of the Jewish people, the greatest of sages, would pray to Hashem to know him like a child. A child doesn't sit and contemplate the different levels of godly energy and different worlds and different manifestations of his divine names. And in spheros and all the different sphere roads and all the different gates that open to the different worlds. It's just them and God in the simplest sense. Their prayers above any levels. They're not praying for insignificant or inconsequential things or to different levels. They're just purely praying to God. It's known in times of danger. What do the Jewish people do? They gather up the children to speak words of Torah, to say Shema. The Rebbe's whole campaign of psukim, of the 12, 13 psukim, if you count Yechid. And the importance of emphasizing this with our children. Because they're pure. They're pure. But and even deeper, we see the advantage of a child in a simple state, even more so than that of a big sage. Gadol Yisrael, kevan sheyadua umavin umasig be'eninei hasfiros. Because the more knowledge one has, the more he's connected to different levels of godliness manifesting in the world. The shalal kol hadarigos v'ta'orim alav v'lo midosav. Aydeza mizbonanei rakol hadarigos v'ta'orim shebenyan u'masig hem rak to'arim v'shliva. The dugma enin yecho shenaamar al yisberech hu mepashet mimeno yisberech kol mashu hu hafech hayecholim v'al derech zehu enin hacham v'rotzeh. Because the more knowledge you have, not that we should not continue to gain in knowledge, but the more knowledge you have, the more you have to negate that knowledge in order for new information to come in, right? That's you ever meet these people that are closed-minded? You give them a suggestion to better themselves, and they're like, "I don't need to do that. I'm fine. I know how to do it. I'm good. I got it figured out." Like, all right, so never grow, never improve. Stay where you're at. If that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, stay in your same place. And you don't want to improve yourself, and you don't want to improve the world around you, and your home, and your family life, and in your financial life. And fine, because they've locked themselves off to any new information because they already know they know. Well, guess what? You're now done growing. The second you think you know everything. The most successful people in the world surround themselves with people that are more successful for them. Unsuccessful people have people that are more successful than them, and instead of taking their advice, their ego's too big. They say, "No, I don't need that. I can do it myself. I'll figure it out. I know what to do." So the more knowledge you have, the harder you need to work to remove your knowledge, to negate your knowledge, to allow yourself to be open receptacle and vessel, to have an open pipe, if you will, so you can properly go to higher levels, right? The highest level of knowing is to know you don't know. So a Chacham has to go through these levels. They have to negate their knowledge. ומפשיט ושולו מדרגה לדרגה בעליו אחר אליה ותחת ידוע שלו נעדך. And you have to go from a higher and higher and keep negating more and more knowledge to reach the ultimate level of knowledge of you don't know. Once you say you know, you don't grow. Because you literally just close yourself off to any new information, any new more possibilities. And that's why most people stay stuck in the same place in their whole life. They know, I know. I don't need your advice. Okay. שמגיע למסכנה שלא יישק שום ידיעה בהשגה במוסר עצמו ישראל. כיוון שמגל זייני שלילס, ככה דרגס התוארים, הרי גם כשנויסוי לעצמוסוי. ישרח. שלמעלה מכל דרגה בתואר מעל. Because the very essence of God is above any levels, above any descriptions, above any possible way of quantifying or qualifying it. The second you start explaining God or describing God, it's not God. It's not his essence. It's what we call a gilui, a revelation, a shem, a name, but it's not his essence. Gam kishenoi, that's Musa. Yisrael Shalom already said that. נרגש אצלוי בזה גופו אלוהי בפעלה. ולא עד אלא שרגש האלוהי הוא מספעלה בשלילוס הדרגס התוארים. מה שאין כן תינוק, a child does not need to go through this. They don't need to keep undoing their knowledge or undoing their knowledge and unwinding their knowledge. And it's this ego. You don't know what a killer an ego is. And the people with the biggest egos don't even think they have an ego. They're like, no, I've been working on myself. I got my ego in check. And listen, the ego is such a powerful thing, and it blocks it blocks from growing. And we have to negate the ego, have to continuously peel back layers and working and going through all these things to dissolve the ego through numerous heavy lifting. A lot of work. It's a lot of work. Believe me, it's much easier to do manual labor and break rocks all day long than it is to break your head and dissolve your ego. But a child doesn't have to go through this. A child doesn't have to negate levels of knowledge. A child doesn't have to remove extraneous things that are blocking the child from the connection to God. Because they're not aware of all these other different levels of knowledge and levels. And therefore they don't need to gain them. All they know is Abba. It's me and it's God. Abba. It's the pasuk, right? It says in the Hebrew. It says Hashem answers all of those who call to him be'emes, in truth. They don't even know about the name of essence and being. All they know is Hashem, the name. There's no concept of anything other than he's God. In a simple way. But Gam Kafishin Nikra Da'ar Everster, the Everster. Shepirushoy Aliyoim, Ain Kavanati Nukra Ta'ar Eloi Bamitzios Yisrachiim, Shnim Zalamayim. All they know is above. What's up there, God? Abba. Abba's up. Umilvad zo shenimsa l'mayla ino yodea ma mitziosai ki im shishnai mitzios la'misai shel devar efshar lo imar Allah mitzios inyan o devar kivan shagam b'tevois ele yesh tochan l'geder mitzios rad mipnei shumachrin l'ishtamesh b'bitoy mitzios משתמשים בלשון מצוי, בלשון רבינו הזקן, המאור הוא בהסגלוס, ולכן אפילו תינוק ויודעים שיש שם אלוקי מציאוי. Very, very simple comprehension for a child and God. And this is what we have to ascribe to do. We have to unlearn, if you will. You have to keep learning into our knowledge. You have to keep increasing your knowledge. And it says that the prophets, they would prophesy naked. So on one hand, it meant physically clothes. But on another hand, it meant removing the garments of thought, speech, and deed. Removing their sense of self to allow themselves to be a channel for the godly energy to flow. Everything's here. Moshiach is here 100%. Not because I said it so, because Moshiach himself said so. All the divine energy is here. Every one of us has the potential right now to be living as multimillionaires by working very little and putting a little amount of effort, by being Talmud Chachamim, by having deep, meaningful relationships with our spouses, with our kids, with our friends. All that energy is here in the world. It's just a matter of manifesting into our lives. And it's less in doing and more in undoing. It's more of just removing, or I was talking to a friend of mine who's a therapist last night, and we were talking about dealing with trauma victims. I was discussing, people at the center, people he works in a rehab. We all said the same thing. These people who are in a horrible situation, some of them in literally suicide situations, drug overdose situations. When you're working on healing these types of people, you don't have to add light. The light is there. You just got to remove the darkness that's blocking it. We're godly beings. God's inside of us. We don't have to try to create more light. We just have to remove the darkness. And what is the darkness? It's our egos. But okay, and we have to express the difference between them and the relationship between the level of the existence of a person and it's connected with God, his connection with God. That the sages of the Jewish people had to pray to God, that they should become like a child, and therefore they have to remove any type of levels or descriptions in order to connect to God in a complete way, in such a way that they're negating any other type of existence, including any previous comprehension or graspings, right? Shalilis Metzios Aide Kwach Mesiris Nefesh. Bitul Metzios. Avogam as Hayat Musar Nafsh. And to do that, to create a true negation, you have to literally negate your entire being. This is called the Koach Mesiris Nefesh, of self-sacrifice. Bitul Metzios, totally nullifying your existence in a way of literally sacrificing your soul. So it's a tremendous amount of effort. First, again, these are all for bring-ins. These are long discussions, but I try to bring some life and connection to our day-to-day lives into these teachings, so they're not just word for word out of the book. And I don't want to call the Rebbe's teaching boring, but God forbid, not engaging. Anyways, Mesiris Nefesh is a term that's thrown around on a regular basis in Lubavitch. Mesiris Nefesh, Kabbalah soul, Mesiris Nefesh. And it's a very powerful idea. It literally, in its most simplest sense, it literally means that you have totally surrendered your life to God. That you have come to the realization that your life is not yours, that you're not here for you, you're not here for your own entertainment. They say, what's the guaranteed way to fail in a marriage? The guaranteed way to fail in a marriage is to enter in a marriage because you want to get your needs met from your spouse. That's a recipe for disaster. When you enter into a marriage and say, I'm here to provide and give my spouse what they need, then you automatically will get that energy back. It's the same thing with life. If we enter into life, because a man and a woman are very connected to the God and Jewish people analogy. So if our approach in life is, what can I get out of this? What can I gain? How much money can I save? How big of a house can I buy? How can I get the most pleasure and the most enjoyment? What can I get out of this life? You're always going to come up short because you'll never reach it. But when the penny drops, so to speak, and the consciousness shifts to, what can I do? Why did God put me here? Why did God give me this wife, this neighborhood, this shul, these friends, this job, this shlichut, all the things around us? The biggest war we have is really with God, if you think about it. Because deep inside, we all harbor these feelings of, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I had a little bit more money. I wish my wife is a little prettier. I wish my my wife wasn't so fat. I wish I didn't have this brother or sister. I wish I didn't have these parents. I wish I didn't have this neighbor. I wish I didn't have this mole on the side of my nose. I wish I would have been stronger. I wish I would have been. We harbor all these desires and wants, and we spend a life of broken dreams. And all we do is just sit and woe is me. I got the short end of the stick. I didn't get what I wanted. My life has been nothing but a waste. Instead of saying, this is the clay that God has given me. How can I mold it to make it the most beautiful possible? Not how I could keep throwing it back at God and saying, I don't want this one. I don't want this clay. Give me another. Give me something different. We're all a bunch of spoiled children inside of adult bodies that are kicking and screaming because we're not happy with our lot. I'm not, by the way, I don't think I'm lecturing anyone. I'm speaking to myself along with whoever is listening to this. I'm talking about a general idea. This isn't about me saying that I've got this figured out and no one else does. This is the idea of where we all have to manifest for it. Mysterious nefesh doesn't just mean that you go on Mifsoyim or you learn Torah when instead of playing video games. Mysterious nefesh means you're giving your life, your individual life, not just connected to Torah and mitzvahs, connected to every aspect of your life to God. And the more you give, the more he gives to you. Because ultimately, we're all going to be rich. Every single Jew is going to have the highest level of whatever we could possibly imagine. And the path to get to that is through surrendering ourselves to Hashem in every capacity, not just Torah and mitzvah. Anyway, so a high-level person, a great sage of the Jewish people, has to work on himself to constantly surrender and let go and to reach all of these levels so he can finally be a clear bittul, a clear nothingness, chokhmah, pure pipe, to reach this level of connecting to God. This is not the case with a child. He knows God exists. He knows his entire existence is only for Hashem. And every single thing he does is pure. Child says a blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech. Wow. We say a bracha. What does our bracha look like? It's natural for a child. They don't have to put all this effort for it. But Zion. Now we're going to explain this according to Chassidut on a deeper level. And this is all going to come. By the way, every one of these sichas is like a novel. It's like a beautiful masterpiece of a story. It starts out with an opening question. It brings out a couple realities, usually based on the parsha or the time of the year, or the holiday of the year. It brings into question something that we never thought about before, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I never thought about that. And then it opens us up, and then the Rebbe takes us on what appears to be a detour and starts talking about things that appear to not be connected. And then all of a sudden, it starts weaving in all the answers to these questions very, very slowly and hinting and nudging. And the end of the sikha ties everything up in a bow and gives us the closure of the loop and puts everything in together. And it took, by the way, just for whatever it's worth, I learned these sikhas for years, and I had no idea what was going on. I would literally learn the sikha, and halfway through the sikha, if you ask me for, $5,000, what is the question at the beginning of the sikha? What is the sikha about? I have no idea. It's just confusion. But I know this is what the Rebbe said to do to bring Moshiach, so I just kept at it. And eventually, you start seeing the patterns. You start seeing what's going on, which is why I don't know, Doug, if you did it, but I encourage everyone who's following along, even if you don't know what you're reading, to follow along in Hebrew inside. Just by reading the words or looking at the letters the best you can, it's helping restore your soul. It's helping bring redemption and the light of Mashiach into your soul. Anyways, moving on. Okay. That even the greats of the Jewish people connected to God in state, what do we call it? Giluim, in a state of revelation. And their connection to God is based on your own individual capacity of your head and your heart. How much you've exercised, right? It's no different than going to the gym. How much weight can you lift? Well, that depends. how long you've been lifting, and then how strong are your muscles. Your soul, so to speak, has muscles too, as your brain and your heart. And the more you work, and the more you work on yourself, the more godly revelation you're able to receive. And even higher than this, it goes up to higher levels of will and pleasure. Up into the highest level of connecting to God. Will and pleasure, meaning the ultimate heights of this connection to God. You're not a Kabbalah soulmate. It's like you go from these stages of. I'll just use an example in my own life. When the Rebbe first started the center in my house, it was very hard for me. I just came back from Israel. I had to start work all over from the bottom again. I had no money. I was so tired. I went through 6 or 7 years without working, and I was busting ass every day. I came home exhausted, and then I had to start going shopping. I used to go every weekend with my wife to Costco and buy all the stuff, and I had to go get all the food, and had to make the barbecue, and had to set up all the tables, and no one was helping me. I didn't have money to help anyone. I was doing everything myself, and I was drained. And after about a year, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just so freaking tired. I didn't have money to hire anyone. There was no fundraising. And it was years of Kabbalah's old. And then it became hard, and I had to fundraise, and I had to hire people. And I'm trying to get my law practice going. And I was just grinding me down to the point that I didn't want to do it anymore. I was miserable. It was complete Kabbalah soul. And then over time, it got to the place where I started seeing not only what I'm doing for the Rebbe, but how it was benefiting me. How I saw reflections of my own challenges going through in life in each one of these young men and women that were coming. And ultimately, it manifests for almost 15 years later to the point that I'm blessed. And I thank God every day for the center. And I go to the center with a smile on my face, and it makes me happy to go there. Just giving you this as a little nugget to understand that the Ratzon and Tainug is the highest level, to the place that we're no longer serving God because we have a yoke on our neck, where it's hard. I don't want to do it, but if this is what you want from me, I'll do it. To, I want to do this, God, and not only do I want to do it, it's giving me pleasure. I'm happy. I'm enjoying it. This is the level that we need to get to in every aspect of our life. Very hard, very hard. But to look at the challenges we have with our lives, with our jobs, with our friends, with whatever aspect of our lives, and to switch from this is torture and hell to, okay, it's not so bad, I'll put up with it, to, wow, thank you for this exercise gym you gave me, God. Thank you for this difficult test that you put me through, because it's all for my own benefit. This is where we need to get to. Up until the place where we reach the shleimus, to the ultimate level of the Yechida, where you realize that there's no possibility that you want something different from your life than the life that God's given you. This is a high level. Because, again, deep inside, or sometimes not so deep, we all kind of wish that we had things differently. Go through it all the time. Shouldn't have became a lawyer. Many people tell me they should have became a lawyer. I said I should have became a lawyer. I want to be a movie producer. I want to make movies. I want to entertain people. I want to put on big productions and make people laugh. And then here I am grinding it out. But slowly, I'm working on myself to get to this place where the level of the Yechida, where you realize that every single thing that God is giving you is what you want. Your will cannot be separate from God's will. If it is, it's your own Yeshus that's blocking you. It's your own sense of entitlements or wants or this is what I wanted. This is what my dreams are. It's very nice. But total surrender, you realize that what your desire and God's desire, they exactly line up. This is Mashiach. Mashiach isn't you get to become what you want to be. Mashiach isn't now, finally I get to do what I... No, Mashiach is now, you are who you are, and you're embracing it, and you're happy. Thank you, God, for making me. Thank you, God, for making my life my life. Thank you for this portion that you've allowed it. This is the level of the Yechida. And this is the fifth level of going level by level by level by climbing climbing through the higher gates of surrendering your physical being, of surrendering your emotions, of your brain, of your soul, of your whole being. It's a journey. Shem Shemara Ah Torah Begeder Abisiyaima Yechida Sheyachida. Yechida Shechidecha. My Yechida is part of your Yechida. My will and yours are the same, God. They cannot be separate. Shekal Retzoina V'chaf Soy that says Bamitzvah the Achos Imeshah. And that my entire being and essence exists only to connect to God. And to connect to God means to play on His rules. To connect to God means to play in His game according to the world that He has given you to be His partner. Nobody told you you get to choose what aspect of partnership you have with God. We are all His partners, and each one of our partnerships are unique to us. And we spend so much time and energy like this. Look at him. I wish I had that. He doesn't work so hard. How come he's got so much money? Oh, look at that. So much energy following, worshiping other people, jealous of other people, wishing that was our life, wishing I didn't have this, wishing I had this, we're just burning up energy. And it just exhausts us, and then we don't want to be who God puts us in this world to be. But this is through a tremendous amount of effort to get to this place of this desire and this will and this pleasure in becoming one with Hashem. Where this is not the case with a tinuk. The connection to God is through the essence of your soul. Above all these 5 levels of climbing up to the Yechida. Literally oneness, complete oneness with God. Verstehst? When you remove yourself completely, when you eliminate your ego, when you break down these levels, more and more levels, of peeling back the onion of all these levels, you start to connect to your inner child, your inner self, your authentic self who God put you in this world to be. And the connection to God becomes automatic. Excuse me. The biur ha'inin ba'avod is called echad me'echad Yisrael. Excuse me, I'm saying to my wife because unfortunately people shut the air off here to go in the shower and then they don't put it back on. And then I'm schwitzing. I gotta get one of those remote jobs. Yeah. Okay. And we could explain this to the work of the Jewish people for every one of us that we do on a daily basis. The first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is we say Modani Lefanecha Techomea Knishini Oram Mishnasoi Hainu Shi Haisoida Voredakal Hayom Kulohova Bittel excuse me Da'a HaKodesh Baruch Hu. This is how we set the pace for the day when the second we open our eyes, where we automatically, if we're using proper kavana, when we're waking up and we're saying Moda Ani, we're saying, thank you, God, for trusting and believing in me to give me another day in your world, to do what it is that you put me in this world to do. Alaka's kama v'kama with a smile on her face. Oh, wow. That's bonus. And even before we say Ani, I, we say Moda. In other words, we're starting right away from giving praise and thanks. In other words, the first word in our mouth is not ani, it's not I, right? How do you tell someone you love them? I love you. What does that mean? It means as long as you do the things that I love, as long as you take care of me and do the things that I want you to do and you meet my needs, then I love you. But if you start going against what I want, and you start doing things that are not comfortable to me, or you start not going according to my way, then I don't love you. Because who's it about? You have to start a relationship with God with not I. It's not about I. It's about modeh, surrender. This is starting from the very essence of the soul. ויש כמו שנזמרו מזגם בטבעס מוידה וגמצ'יה נון שמורז העצם של שלושים מכוונס עצם הנשם ויש לומר שעל זה נאמר אם לבדר ישכנו. One second. העצם של המעלה למעלה גם בבחינס היחידה, הקשר מיוחדס עם היחידה של העולם, אלא כל מה שכוזהים להוויה דרכך השמיים ושמי הארץ, וכל אשר בוי, הם מורה על דרגה שלפני למעלה להוויה דרכך. לאחוז כמה וכמה למעלה משמי השמיים, it's connected to a level above creation, above everything, to a place where we're totally one with Hashem. That's how it was back in our core. Back before we came down into this world, there was no sense of self. There was no sense of being separate, of having an agenda, of trying to meet our needs. We were one with Hashem. That even though the Yechida is the highest name of the soul, it's still not the essence of the soul. הקשורה עם עצמוסו יסברך ממש. ויש לומר שאין זה מודגש האמור המצב נאור משנסוי אוי לפני שתחילה באמירס מודעני לפניך. אמירס מודעני לפניך היא התנועה של ביטול ההודעה שהיא יציאס ממציאוס. The whole idea when we wake up and we say Modeh is that we are literally want to go out of our independent existence. At that moment in time, Alavai, it should be clear in our minds that I'm not here for myself. I'm not here for anything connected to me. I'm here as a soul giver. To God, to my wife, to my kids, to my surroundings, my coworkers, my worker, my boss, whatever it is, whoever it is, this is how we emulate God. The more you give, the more you get. Because God's giving to you. Very hard to do, right? Because we're flesh and blood. We have egos. Yeah. Amiras modernifnahi tenua shal bitu hoda. Yeah, okay, it's it. The koidem the zan lamaylam is mizgalos mitzios kamoshi he atzma. The regesh ni or mishnasei she'en kan shum devar zoiles izgalos mitzios ashlios mitzios achat. Excuse me, im atzmos muhush. Yisokor b'koluha no or atzmos muhush shaboy. This is the state. The second we open our eyes from sleep, even before we say modernity, that I don't exist. I'm completely one with the essence of God. I'm an extension of God. And after we start off with the basic modeh ani, then afterwards we begin the process of going through the day. What do? We say the brachas of the day. Thank you, God, for the soul that you have created and formed and placed into me and blew into me. Now we're going through each level of the soul connected to the four levels, each one of them. Then we go about and we go to then we go to the Beit Knesset and we pray. We do our morning service, and once again, in all the levels of the prayer until it culminates with Shemona Esrei, which is the level of the of Atzilus. We go through all four levels of our soul and all four levels of the prayer throughout the day. And Hag Behem and Hag Derech Eretz, and then after that we go into the world and we conduct ourselves in a way of doing business fairly, of being a mensch, of being a positive influence, and a positive representative of God and Melech HaMashiach. And how we do that, the way we conduct ourselves in a way of derek eretz in a pleasing way, by building a dwelling place for God. Test. Al pi mor el yes levuar gam teichen hachidur so with a mitzvah shlem by the Melech Mashiach shehem masidim nekadesh kamoisei. Now we're going back to our original question. And our original question is, how can we say that in Yemot HaMashiach, when Melech HaMashiach reveals himself, should happen immediately, the Jewish people will be renewed like the moon? And not as the moon is complete in a state of fulfillment like it is in the middle of the month. That's the original question we started with. And the difference between, or the advantage, we should say, of the birth of the moon and Rosh Chodesh versus when the moon is at its state of fullness in the 15th of the month is when the moon, so beautiful, when the moon is full, it's at a full because it's a state of light, of the or, of gilui. We see it, right? The moon in the 15th of the month appears to be complete because it's the furthest away from the sun. Because it's the furthest away from the sun, it's in a state of revealing. We see it the best, right? Hainu, shemiyoyim liyoyim holech b'nei toisef ba'or levana ad shleimus or. And namely in the beginning of the month, and day by day, when it adds on more and more light, until it gets to a state of completion, right? If you watch the cycles of the moon as they wax and wane throughout the months, you'll see very small, and it becomes bigger and bigger, and then it goes smaller and smaller and smaller. It keeps repeating this pattern over and over again. And this is not the case in the advantage of the birth of the moon. Because now it's connected to its very existence, its mitzias, which is above its giluim. So it's a basic concept of Chassidus. You have atzmios or mitzios, or the essence of something, and the giluim. So the essence of God, we call God atzmus u'mochus, which is his essence and his being. It's above a name. It's the existence of God, whatever that may be. The second we start naming him, Hashem, Havaya, Elohim, El Shaddai, Kael, whatever the name may be, now that's a revelation of God. It's not his essence. It's a way of describing him, right? If you have your best friend or your wife or someone very close to you, and you're hugging them like this, you're in a state of oneness. You don't see them, right? You're embraced. You're like this. You can't see the person, but the second you start separating and becoming further away, you start seeing them more and more, because now you're not connected to their essence. You're connected to what is called a gilui, or it's revealing. Another mashal is like the light of the sun versus the ball of the essence of the sun itself. The rays of the sun are much more diffused than the essence of the sun. So the point that I was bringing out now is that in the middle of the month, when the moon is full, it's full in a state of gilui, meaning you see it. It's revealed as a state of its highest or most fulfilled, but it's the furthest away from the sun. Whereas when it's reborn at the beginning of the month, you don't see it because it's connected, if you will, to the closest it can be to the sun, where its existence is much stronger. And after it's in its state of complete concealment, in the moment before it gives birth, then it is beginning the process of brand newing, revealing its true existence, because it hasn't opened up yet. It's like the rays of the sun as they're still connected to the sun. It's in a state of its existence, of its true existence, above any revelations. And And then it begins the process of revealing the light from day to day as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you see it on the 15th of the month. But what you're seeing is the revealing, the gilui, the light of the moon. And this is the advantage of the true and complete redemption, as it's expressed through the renewal the moment before the birth of the moon. Because then the true existence of the moon will come into play. And this is an example of what the Jewish people are. Is galus etzem mitzias Yisrael, etzem neshama. Then we will reach the state of the essence of our soul, just like a child, like we learned earlier. That the child is connected to the essence of the soul and the essence of God. It's not levels. It's not level by level by level. It's core. It's essence. It's very being. And that is what the Jewish people will be. Our true essence will come alive in Yom HaMashiach. And not only that, the essence will draw down and become revealed. There's never been this has never existed. It's always Gilui or Atzmus, the essence or the revelation. But when Mashiach comes, God says that the Rebbe says that the essence will be revealed. In other words, who we truly are, without all these shows and costumes and egos, is going to be revealed in its true core. There's a story just recently in Eretz Yisrael about this guy who was this Israeli guy. He was engaged to I forgot where she was from, somewhere in Europe. Or not, he's a totally secular Jew. And he's sitting there, and he's glued to the TV, watching what's going on, because a lot of his friends, he was older, he was out of the army. A lot of his friends are still in the army. They're fighting in the war in Gaza. And he's freaking out. He's like, he wants to do something, he wants to go, and he's watching TV all day long. And by the way, he was with this girl for many years. They were dated for 4 or 5 years, and they finally got engaged. They're ready to get married. They've been engaged for a year. They already have their wedding date, ready to get married. And one day she just turns to him. She's like, why are you glued to the TV all the time? It's enough already. Why are you paying so much attention to this? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, these are my people. They're my brothers and my sisters. She's like, come on, what do you mean brothers and sisters? No one's right in this war. There's this opinion and this opinion, this side and this side. What are you trying to say? That the Jewish people are better than Hamas? No, they're just... And he said, what? How? His neshama woke up and he broke off. It was published in Beis Moshiach magazine this week. And he broke off the engagement. At that moment, the soul came alive. The essence of his soul came alive when he realized what is a Jew. That the essence, the core of a Jewish soul is something beyond explanation. It came to life. That even this level of revealing will emphasize the very essence that's above being revealed. It's hard to explain this in words because it's a concept that's above words. It's something that we have to experience because we've never experienced it before. In the future to come, we will see in actuality the true existence of what is a Jew. That the essence of every Jewish soul is completely one with the essence of God. That the Jewish people and God are truly one. These aren't fancy, fluffy words to make us feel better. This is reality. And therefore it will draw down and penetrate and reveal all 5 levels of our soul. And all of our soul powers. Time of the pleasure and the will be awakened. Seichel aminos, our brain and our emotions. And our garments of thought, speech, and deed. The gufa gashmi, and our physical body. The kol ramach ivrim, and all 248 limbs. The shasag yidim, and all 365 connecting tissues. Excuse me. It will be recognized that in our entire being, in our essence, is truly one with God. What do you say about that? And therefore, there's to say that the complete redemption that will take place is emphasized specifically on Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Kislev, concealed, revealed. God b'shleimus agilui, because the revealing will be in a state of completion. Milui v'hashleimus labana nikar nirgash shezeh ata yisa hitkashut rega harishayin shela achri ha'helam v'kisui. And this is that we will recognize and see and how the renewal will take place from the concealment. Rega Hamodid, the moment of the birth of the moon, Shabo mitchadeshes u'misgala mitzir sha'alavana, will renew and reveal the true essence of the moon. And that the essence will be revealed above any levels of revelation, and it will also penetrate into the revelation that the essence will be revealed through the revelation. Again, it's contradictory terms, but that's exactly what's going to happen. Let me continue. I want to explain a little bit outside to sum all this up, but let's continue inside because I often explain right before the Rebbe is going to explain. And we'll be on time for an on-time landing. Yes, there is to add to this, Mudgash Gam Chayemin Toivim, the Chodesh Kislev. Hanukkah, Yud Kislev, Yud Kislev, and this is added on and emphasized even more. We see through the holidays of the month of Kislev, Hanukkah, Yud Kislev, Yud Kislev, Iskashurim, Im, Hashem, and Shabbat Torah, all connected to the oil of the Torah, Penimis Torah, the innermost dimension of the Torah, since Galasa Torah's Chasidus, which is revealed through the Torah Chasidus. He argued Torah Chasidus Nasser Ha'inin Yediasa Avias. Ma'ayin v'dugma hakana l'hashlemas ha'yedia lokus la'sidavo shelo haya oiser kol oidam gula ela l'das es Hashem levad. And we see this will take place in the future to come, that we will no longer need to learn about God because we will all know God. In the entire occupation of the world will only be to know God. And the entire earth will be filled with the knowledge of God like the water covers the ocean bed. How much more so the Jewish people will know all the deep secrets. I feel bad, I really do. Every time I learn these sikhas, I have two complete opposite emotions. I'm filled with such joy and chayas and humility that we've been merited to do exactly what Moshiach is telling us to do, to get a foretaste of redemption, to connect to the level of Keter, the crown, to connect to Melech HaMashiach, to be delving into the deepest dimensions of Hasidus and clear instructions from the Rebbe on how we have to bring and act in the days of Mashiach. And I'm just as pained for the 99.9% of the rest of us who are without this information, who are fumbling around, who are in the darkness, who have no idea what's going on around, who have no idea what the Rebbe is saying right now, that your entire consciousness, rewards, awareness, connection to God for eternity in your Yemot Mashiach is directly connected to your service and deeds right now during the time of the exile. As the old saying goes, you reap what you sow. We get what we're giving. Right now, the work we're doing is so precious. Every single minute, every single second is so precious. And so many people are fumbling around on fakakta, social media, and video games, and spending hours upon hours on the news, eating their kishkas, doing nothing. And the Rebbe is telling us right now, all the matters in the future to come are dependent on your deeds and service now in the times of the exile. That the service now is to prepare for the true and complete redemption. Where in the future we will be renewed like the moon. In other words, our renewal is based on all the work we're doing now. Like an example of the renewal of the moon, our true essence of our soul will be revealed. The essence of our soul, even above the fifth level of our soul, which is the Yechida. In addition to all this, as we said many times, the true and complete redemption through Mashiach is indicative of the work of every single Jew, because each one of us has a spark of Mashiach inside of us. This is the Yechida, the fifth level of our soul. These galus etzem neshama mamash. And there is to add on to this that this is the tikkun, the fixing up, and the main purpose of revealing the essence of our soul. And this is the true essence of Mashiach. This is the most that he's going to reveal the very essence of our soul. Mashiach, the Rebbe Melech of Mashiach, is the gateway to not only God, but to you, to find who you truly are, to embrace who you truly are, to embrace your mission in this world, and to do so b'simcha, b'menucha simcha v'tuv lavav, in a peaceful way, in a happy way, with a good heart that makes you want to share that information with others. And it says, I have found my servant David, and I've already anointed him with the holy oil. Metzasi Melashon Metsui. I found the meaning that he's existing. He already exists. Excuse me. Which is indicative of a level that is above any descriptions. Above even the boundaries of an existence. Furthermore, the fact that he says, I have found my servant David, and I've anointed him, it's referring to the essence of his soul. It's above any descriptions. This word means Mitzui, his existence, his essence, which is above levels. And after this, I anoint him with the oil. This is the general soul of Mashiach. And this is an example, a foretaste of the oil that would be anointed, that we were going to have the anointing with. And how do we reveal the level of Yechida in our soul? By total bittul and surrender to God. Again, it's a very important point. Bittul and mitzvahs nefesh doesn't mean learning Torah and doing mitzvahs and keeping kosher. That's part of it. It means every aspect of your being, in your home, in your work, every step, every ache in your back, every detail of your life. Total surrender. Again, that doesn't mean we don't work to improve ourselves. That doesn't mean that if we're fighting with our wives, we shouldn't get therapy and shouldn't do everything we can to stop fighting with our wives. It doesn't mean if we don't have enough money, we shouldn't be working harder to make more money. It doesn't mean we have to be complacent. But it does mean we have to be accepted and surrender. And then in those confines, work on whatever this existence is to improve it. But it must be basimcha. It can't be with a Yishna etzem. Hold on, there's a bracket here, but I don't know where it came from. And I don't know where. Oh, there it is. Yishna etzem mitziyasa etzem neshama yediyah zeh pu'ala somavi l'kol inini havoda b'fo'ah mamash. Kafish echadoirim mizgalos etzem neshama. וזהו אמיתיס העניין לביוס המשיח, שעצם ישראל הוא נסגלה בפועל ממש. This is what Mashiach is. My dear friends, when you reveal the true essence of who you are, not who you want to be, who God created you to be, your true identity, your true purpose, and your true mission in this world, and you do it the way Menucha Simcha B'Tuv Levav, this is living Mashiach. Yodov. And from this we could see the pasuk from our sages that say the entire purpose of your life is to bring the days of Mashiach. Literally means every moment of your life to bring Mashiach. Both by day and by night. Both when you are awake and when you are sleeping. Yishan. Shagam az hu chaya aide nishimas ha'avir. And furthermore, this is your life through the soul that God has placed inside of you. Shemukhrach niyos b'kol rega v'rega. And we're obliged every single moment through our existence, through the air we breathe, that all the days of your life, the Rebbe says, every breathing moment, every living moment, every sleeping moment, it's only to bring the days of Mashiach. And again, what is to bring you to Mashiach? Ever heard the saying that, that charity starts at home? It starts with yourself. You cannot inspire anyone to want to do anything to bring Mashiach if you're not doing it yourself. If you're not a living example of total acceptance, surrender, and love and joy for the life that God has given you, you could wave flags all day long. Nobody cares. You're not budging anyone. They want to look at us and say, wow, that person's happy. That person's living a meaningful life. That person, I see how they treat their wives. I see how they treat their kids. I see how they act to their coworkers. I see how they are in their community. I see the type of person they are, and I want to be like that too. If we're walking around, a chassid once said one time in a farenget, an altar chassid said that any Lubavitcher that is walking around without a big smile on their face is a chiluch Lubavitch and a chiluch Hashem. Because we're basically, and especially if you've got to write these little letters on your kippah here, we're basically telling everyone this is the ultimate way to serve God. And therefore, I'm angry and I'm miserable. Doesn't work. This, again, we're flesh and blood. We're doing our best. I'm not saying we should be tzaddikim, but we have to understand that this is what we need to aspire to. This is what we need to focus on more than anything. Bringing Mashiach, first and foremost, means to bring Mashiach in your body, in your soul, in your head, in your hearts, in your being, in your home, in your surroundings. The further people are away from you, the less influence you have on them. The closer they are to you, starting with yourself and your immediate family, the more hashpah and influence you have. Now, I'm not saying this is easy work, by the way. This is, I get excited about it because I see what the Rebbe is telling us to do, not because I'm saying I'm so successful in it. This is hard work, but this is the work. This is the real work. Perusha, meaning your entire existence, your entire life, is to bring the days of Mashiach. In other words, לא רק בשעה מחושב ומדבר באויסף ולעשוי לעבוס המשיח, אלא עצם חיוסי הוא להביא לעבוס המשיח. Not only at the times that we consider and talk about and do activities to bring Mashiach, right? Not all the days to bring Mashiach. Doesn't mean that, if you go on Mitzrayim and yell Mashiach, and go with a flag and sing Yechi in the shul. Yeah, that's important. But the Rebbe says not only that. Rather, the essence and being of your entire life, Hayacha, to bring those to Mashiach. Again, it has to penetrate every level of your soul, physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and the very core of your being has to be penetrated with the light of God. And we see the exact lashon of what it says, the most of Mashiach, to bring the days of Mashiach, lahavi dafka, specifically to bring loy b'lashon haragil voice most of Mashiach lashon rabbi, meaning in a plural. She'asher chayos. Makal echa mechaz rohu be'inin haMashiach haizeh mavi l'mayla mitzab most of Mashiach. Excuse me. She'etzem Yisrael haya bizgalus before mamash. That the very essence of the Jewish people needs to reveal this. This is what it means. Yomot Mashiach, not the day of Mashiach, but the days in plural. This is hinted on the two general periods of Mashiach. The Rumez Gam all called Riboy Ha'ilui Shahiyah Mimos Mashiach, and also hinting on the multitude states of elevations and levels that we will climb to in the coming of Mashiach. And from level to level, we will keep climbing with no end. Pratius Yoiser, and more specifically, the idea to bring the days of Mashiach is Bata Bakach. Or Etzem Neshama Margish Benashimois Avir in Yinasham Mashiach. Avir Shal Mashiach, Berlashon Chazal, Rucha Shal Melech HaMashiach. Says that to bring not only the light of Mashiach, but the Avir, the smell, the Ruach, the air of Mashiach. So no, it's just the breath is connected to Mashiach more than any other sense. And that the Ruach, or the spirit of Mashiach, is higher than the light of Mashiach. That the light of Mashiach is connected to the revealing of his activities and his actions. This is not the case of the Avir, of the spirit, of the soul of Mashiach, of the Ruach, which is connected to his very essence. Klomar, his galus mitziyosei. In other words, it's revealing his true essence. But Tor Melech HaMashiach la'achar his galus mitziyosei betchila his galus le'ini kol ayidei polasi. And this is the unique thing of Mashiach, that his very essence will be revealed. He called it Prati, including all the details that come afterwards. Boyim ka'atza'ah v'hista'afois v'hizgalus mitziyos v'kololim. Bo kashem muled l'labana kol hizgalus ora v'oifen sha'hoispa ma'rega v'rega ad l'mela v'shlemet l'bana. And just like the birth of the moon, in other words, first we have the essence of Mashiach we have to reveal, and then all the details will come afterwards. Just like the essence of the Jew gets revealed at the beginning of the month, it says it will be renewed like the new moon. And this will continue on throughout the month as it grows more and more and more and more. And in a deeper way, this is why it means to come all the days of your life to bring the days of Mashiach. That it will reveal the very essence of the days of Mashiach. Including all the details of the days of Mashiach. Including the very revealing of his essence. Okay, Yud base. Two more letters. The noga the fall, as it's connected to actual deed. Because the main thing is the deed. Since we are already at the beginning of the birth of the moon, but Rosh Chodesh Kislev on the month of Rosh Chodesh Kislev, Chodesh Lishi, the third month, the Shana Satoshanan base, and the year Toshanan base. So we call Echel Mechel Yisrael the Hoyser be Yoiser Sha'az Ubi Yoiser Ois. We have Gashes Inin Koy Mechayecha the Voice of Mashiach. That every single Jew must add on even more and strengthen our activities to emphasize that all of our deeds should be for the sake of bringing the days of Mashiach. Including your entire existence. Take Kashini or Mishnasa. Hadoiros Chayois the Mashiach. That our entire being must be penetrated with bringing Mashiach. Shemavi the Mota Mashiach. Every single part of our being must be penetrated with this message. The and therefore it is necessary that every single moment of our lives, and through we must an arousal and arousing into a new energy from the essence of our soul to bring the days of Mashiach. And first of all, by adding on, by doing another mitzvah. And we must look with a good eye and judge our fellow with a good eye and not look harshly upon him. Calls that, in addition to all this, we have to increase by nourishing our Yechida, by learning more Hasidus, Yechida Shabbat Torah, which is the Yechida of the Torah, and the Gam Beikar Min HaPshuta, and also we have to supply those who are in need with their basic needs, like physical sustenance, food, and whatnot. And all this must increase in the month of Kislev, as we're approaching the days of Hanukkah. Simchas Halalu, the day of great joy and rejoicing. And we have to add on in great festive meals. And before Hanukkah, we have to have increased massive festive meals for Yud and Yud Tes Kislev, Yud Gimel, Hirat Soin. So, let me finish and then I'll just give a 2-minute summary. Hirat Soin, Huva Ikar, maybe God's will, and the main thing is Chilas Chodesh Kislev, as we're beginning the month of Kislev, Chodesh Aguda, the month of redemption. To go before Vigilui Haguda Mitzvah Shlema should come in to be revealed the true and complete redemption. And a king will stand up from the house of David. And he will fix up the world to serve the one God. And he will transform all the nations of the world to literally to serve the one God. And we see this hinted in the Haftorah and the Parsha of the week. Haftorah the Shavua Sha'avar Mistiyamim Bahachriza Yehi Adonenu Melech David Ha'olam. As we have the announcement of Yehi Adonenu Melech David Ha'olam, and our master David, King David, shall live forever. This is a Ramas Yehi Adonenu for the Rebbe. Netzchias Malchus David Nimshaka B'Malchus Shlomo. And the existence of David's kingship and Shlomo's kingship will exist forever. And it says, and that Melech HaMashiach will come from the house of David and the seed of Shlomo. He's Galus Metzios the Melech HaMashiach. And we will announce and publicize the revealing of the existence of Melech HaMashiach. Murumaz, we have to increase in our activities. Murumaz b'tchilas Parshas Shavuot. So it's hinted in this week's parsha. Eda Tolus Yitzchak. These are the offspring of Yitzchak. Shehileda the Melech HaMashiach, referring to the offsprings of Melech HaMashiach. He ba'ifin gilui la'ayin kol kushmer Yitzchak li v'lo eid ela puala gam al amot ha'olam. And this includes spreading out the teachings also to the nations of the world. Hein biwara v'levanan, the Levan, like Levan. And then we have to teach them the 7 laws of Noach, biwara the Asa, and the refining of Asa. Adasher abo al adoni she'ira b'yimos HaMashiach, and will speedily travel to the days of Yimot HaMashiach. Shenatmar ba'al loyim v'sho'im b'har Tzion, and we will all go to the holy mountain. Yispar our Yisai to the and Yisa the Hashem HaMucha, and God will judge the mouth of Esau, and that Hashem will rule forever. Tekach miyad mamish. It should happen immediately. Just briefly, because it may have gotten a little bit technical there. The idea is that we're reborn. So the Jewish people will be renewed like the renewal of the moon, and not like the completion of the moon, because the completion of the moon is when it's the furthest away. When it's revealing, it's not its essence. So it says when Mashiach comes, the Jewish people reach the highest state of revelation, of Gilui, in the days of Shlomo. But our true essence, our true being, will only be revealed in Yemot HaMashiach. That is when we will come to life like a child, literally like a rebirth, if you will. The Goyim stole that concept from us too. A rebirth where our true existence really comes alive. And again, we have these capabilities now. We don't have to wait for Mashiach. We have this ability to get in touch with our inner dimension, or our inner child, if you will, of rebirth, of exactly who God put us in this world to be, before all the damage from our parents and our teachers and all the chazarai we've been watching and reading and putting into our system for all these years. We can clean all that out and literally start afresh. And just understand this one final concept, that when someone is hugging you, you're the closest to them, you don't see them. The further away they go, the more you see them, but the further away they are. God is embracing us right now. He's holding us tight, every single one of us. And because of it, we don't see him. And that's why it seems to be so dark in the world. When things are light, it means that God's further away. So when things appear to be good, it's because God has distanced himself from us. When things appear not to be good, it's because he's holding us tight like this, and we can't see how he's embracing us. So in these difficult times that we're in as a nation, as individuals, Hashem should give us the power and the amunah, the bitachon, and the simcha to continue on with our mission. And he should redeem us and redeem our captives in Israel and protect our brothers and sisters in Israel around the world. And any person, any nation that is harming any Jew in any way, with words, with actions, with deeds, should immediately be totally eradicated from the world. And God should avenge our blood and redeem us and have the full His godless Melech Mashiach right now. God bless you, Moshiach Now.